Minimum wage laws are specifically concerned with people. They're concerned with human beings. And Representative D'Souza tries to come up here and talk to you about it in the lens of businesses. But what she forgets, at the heart of those businesses, at the heart of the problem lies people. People that, without these minimum wage laws to protect them, would not be earning enough to get by, would not be earning a living wage needed for their survival of themselves and their family. And because of that, the United States government can't afford to be making sure that the United States government needs to make sure that all businesses, regardless of their size, are actually following minimum wage laws to benefit the people. And insofar as small businesses have the ability to pay them, and that then improves the quality of the lives of the employees of these businesses and the quality of these businesses as well, we need to be failing this piece of legislation. So Representative D'Souza gets up here and talks about how there is this burden on small businesses and how they cannot pay the amount of money required by minimum wage laws. Actually, statistically, most small businesses support minimum wage laws. According to Joyce Rosenberg, a money and market editor of USA Today in November of 2014, she finds that of those small businesses that pay an hourly wage, 81% of those small businesses actually pay more than the minimum wage by the government that is set by the government. Because of that, we see that they clearly have the means to be paying more than the government is already saying for the minimum wage. So Representative D'Souza, there isn't an actual burden on these businesses because they have the ability to pay even more than the minimum wage requires. The impacts of these increase in wages for the lowest income getters is an improvement in their quality of their life, an improvement in the quality of the businesses, and a reduction in the inequalities that exist within our society today. So first, when we talk about the improvement of quality, according to the Office of Thomas Perez, the Secretary of Labor in 2014, he finds that when we improve the wages of these low-income getters, we reduce turnover rates, and turnover specifically is the amount of employees that are leaving a workplace. So when that happens, what we're seeing is that there is a decrease in unemployment. That's an improvement in the quality of life of these employees, and what we're seeing is that there's a decrease in training costs. So when Representative D'Souza talked about how the businesses would be cutting money on other sectors, when we see that this is actually put into place, when we see small businesses actually adopting the policies of minimum wage requirements, what we see is that they actually don't need to do any of those things because the amount of money that they're paying employees is compensated by the impacts that are coming from the turnover rate. Now, not only that, but we're decreasing inequality by boosting these people up. Representative D'Souza talks about how there won't be inequality created, but if we're boosting up the people that have the least amount of income in the society today, what we're seeing is that we're reducing income inequality, improving purchasing power. So if we want to be doing what's best for the people, what's best for our economy, we need to be failing this piece of legislation. So you talked about how 81% of small businesses know that that pay hourly wages are actually paying above the minimum wage. But do all of those 81% of small businesses know what's good for them? Well, a small business wouldn't make a decision if it didn't benefit their business. Okay, but then what about the companies that can't afford the minimum wage requirements? Well, the companies you're talking about usually are smaller corporate companies that don't have as many employees, don't have as much income, so the impact on them would be disproportionately less. So even that 21% that isn't paying above the minimum wage, they still would be paying as much as they need to because they have fewer employees, and there's not going to be as big of a burden on them. Okay, so when you talk about turnover, what's the specific cause behind employee turnover? So there are a lot of different causes for employee turnover, but most of it stems from dissatisfaction from the workplace that they're working in. Okay, but is minimum wage requirements the only way to make employees satisfied in the workplace? Certainly it's not the only way to make employees satisfied in the workplace, but employees that are receiving more wages are more likely to be satisfied, as I stated in my second contention. So you talked about inequality, but if everyone is brought up the way that Representative D'Souza said, because everyone's expecting a wage increase, is there really a decrease in inequality? Well, first, Representative D'Souza, just because she says that there is a demand for higher wages from the rest of the workforce, that doesn't mean that that's going to equate into businesses giving them an increase in their wages, those higher income earners. But if they're not getting the increase in wages, but the people that are at the bottom end of the spectrum, people that are earning the least amount of money, if they realistically are being improved in terms of their wages, that means that they're getting more wages and brought to the level of the other employees, and that's how we promote equality.